Alright, here we go. Part 2. Let's get to it. The main event of the evening. Nick Diaz versus Evangelista Cyborg Santos for the Strikeforce Welterweight Championship of the world. Now, what we have here is two extremely tough guys with very good skills, although I think one is a little bit more skilled than the other, but still both fairly skilled in their own right. Now, Cyborg, he's been on a pretty good streak in Strikeforce. You know, he got the win over who was that? Marius Zarumskis. Sorry. He got the big knockout over him and a couple of impressive victories before that. So he is deserving of this title shot. Although, personally, I would have liked to see the Jason Mayhem Miller Nick Diaz fight. Just my opinion. But anyway, Cyborg is a very formidable opponent for Nick Diaz. And I think Cyborg is going to present a lot more challenges to Diaz than Zarumskis did. Because Zarumskis, you know, he's all wild and, you know, likes to start off throwing caution to the wind. I don't think Cyborg is going to be that. Although I do think he is wild himself. But I don't think he's as wild as Zarumskis is, if that makes any sense at all. But, nevertheless, he's getting the shot. And, you know what he's going to look to do. He's going to try to get a TKO in this fight. You know, he's going to, you know, push a furious pace with his punches and his knees and his kicks. If the fight does hit the ground, it'll be very interesting to see how Cyborg's jiu-jitsu really is, being that he is a black belt. So it should be pretty legit. But, you know, Nick Diaz, he's a world-class jiu-jitsu fighter on the ground. And, you know, his jiu-jitsu is way deadlier than Cyborg. So you know Cyborg is going to keep this fight standing and knock this guy out. Now, Nick Diaz, on the other hand, I don't think that he'll stay standing up too long. I think he'll just work his usual strategy, as he always does. You know, try to methodically and technically dispatch Cyborg with his boxing. Cyborg, I don't think, has ever met an opponent with the awkward boxing style as Nick Diaz. Being that Nick Diaz is so tall and he has very long arms, so the jab that he uses is not like any ordinary jab. You know, he comes from real parallel, unorthodox angles, and you know, it tends to frustrate the opponent, and it tends to lure them into committing to Nick Diaz as opposed to Diaz committing to them. So you can bet that Nick Diaz is going to, you know, apply that awkward strategy towards Cyborg. Now, with that being said, if Cyborg does come out like a house on fire, how will Nick Diaz react? Will he take it to the ground automatically, or will he try to be a tough guy and try to duke it out with Cyborg? More than likely, you probably think he'll try to be, you know, the badass Nick Diaz that he is and try to go toe-to-toe with Cyborg. Well, in this case, I don't think that'd be a good idea. If Nick Diaz does decide to go punch for punch with Cyborg, he will get caught, because Cyborg can catch it, because he's very powerful with his strikes. Very powerful striker, as demonstrated with Zarumskis. You saw how quick he turned his lights out. So Nick Diaz probably would not want to take that approach, although I don't know. I mean, you never know what can happen in the heat of the moment. But if I was Nick Diaz, you know, I would swallow my pride for one night in this fight and try to play it a little bit smarter than that, because, you know, Cyborg, he's a very accomplished striker, you know, and if he lands one of those punches or one of those knees on you, man, you know, it's good night, Irene. So you know, Nick Diaz, if it does get into a slugfest, he should probably take this to the ground. He's a lot more skilled on the mat than Cyborg is, and I think what's going to happen is what I just said before. I think Nick Diaz is going to be smart in this fight, and I think he's going to methodically pick Cyborg apart with his boxing, and eventually Cyborg will be rattled, I think somewhere maybe late in the third round, and Diaz is going to catch him with one big shot, maybe like a straight jab or maybe a right hook or something, or a body punch, something of that nature, and Cyborg is going to fall, and Diaz is going to end up submitting him either with a guillotine or a rear naked choke. So I'm picking Nick Diaz by submission somewhere in the third round to retain the welterweight title. But I'm not doubting Cyborg one bit, because he is powerful and he does push the pace in fights, and he's going to test Diaz's conditioning, and he is going to look for the knockout, and he can't catch Diaz, because like I said, if Diaz tries to play the tough guy role, then he will get splattered out cold. Bottom line, believe it. So there you go, man. Those are my predictions for Strikeforce, Diaz versus Cyborg. Should be a fairly decent card. You know, it's not the best show to start out 2011, but you know, it's a jump start. You know, compared to the other Strikeforce events that's coming up this year, this is just only the appetizer. I said only. I meant to say this is only the appetizer. Okay, we've got the full course coming up next month. Strikeforce Grand Prix heavyweight tournament. I can't wait. We've got 4 or 5 of the best heavyweights in MMA right now competing for a chance to stake the claim as the best heavyweight in the world. We got Fabricio Verdun, the man who just upset probably arguably the greatest fighter in the world, next to Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre. Fedor Emelianenko, my man. We got Alistair Overeem, you know, a man who's been on a hot streak recently of his own, you know, handling business down there in K1, just completely assassinated Brett Rogers last year. We got Andre Arlovsky, we got Antonio Bigfoot Silva, we got Sergey Kardinov, we got Josh Barnett, the babyface assassin, and we've got Brett the Grim Rogers himself. This is gonna be awesome. Like, this probably might be the best idea that Strikeforce has come up with in a long time, because there's been a lot of debate, there's been a lot of talk about who should get the next shot at the championship, and it's been all types of confusion, all types of negotiation problems, contract problems, all this stuff that's been going on in Strikeforce right now as far as the heavyweight division is concerned. So what better way to settle it than to have a Grand Prix? So let's do it, man. It reminds me of the Pride days, man. They're bringing back a little bit of pride to Strikeforce, which is always good to see, man. I miss this type of stuff. But anyway, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for that. But in the meantime, you all enjoy Cyborg versus Diaz, or Diaz versus Cyborg, I should say. this Saturday night, 10 o'clock, showtime. It's gonna be good for what it's worth, like I said. Yeah, that's it. God bless. Deuce.